So Diddy's going from Grammy Awards to grand juries because his criminal troubles have just gotten a little worse, So Diddy has recently found himself at the center of a lot of criminal troubles following a recent federal indictment. And so a grand jury has charged Diddy after reviewing evidence suggesting he may have committed serious federal offenses. While the specifics of the charges may vary depending on the case, a grand jury indictment usually implies that the government has gathered substantial evidence and linking him to potential crimes. And apparently he knew this was coming, which explains why he's been in New York for like the last week or so, because typically a defense may not know when the grand jury is about to indict because it's really done in clandestine, it's really secretive, but he knew, and so I guess this is his way of showing the court, I'm not trying to hide, I'm not a flight risk when he kind of have that bail hearing, which we're going to talk about. So federal indictments are not minor accusations. They represent a formal legal process where a grand jury believes there's enough evidence to prosecute. And if convicted, Diddy could face significant legal consequences. He's probably going to prison. I'm going to tell you this. He's probably going to go to prison. And so unlike a regular trial jury, doesn't decide guilt or innocence. The grand jury role is basically to evaluate whether or not there's probable cause to believe a crime was committed and whether or not the accused, this being Diddy, should be formally charged or indicted, which happened in this particular case. Prosecutors present evidence and they may call witnesses, and I'm sure they probably call Cassie as a witness because they have someone listed as victim 1. And I'm sure that's her. That's in that indictment because it got unsealed. But anyways, y'all, so the defense is generally not involved at this stage, as I stated, because I've had several clients that got indicted by the grand jury, and we didn't know anything about it until it happened. So defense attorneys, we don't know when our clients sometimes are getting indicted. And so, because we're not involved. And so if the grand jury believes that there's sufficient evidence, they issue an indictment which allows the case to move forward to trial. If not, the case may be dropped. So this is important because the jury is the make of the community and they believe there is probable cause to prosecute. It's a high chance that the defendant will be convicted because the prosecutors will be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this person is guilty. And so federal prosecutors have a very high conviction rate, largely because they tend to pursue cases with strong evidence. And because many cases are resolved through plea bargains in the recent years, the conviction rate in federal cases has been around 90 to 95%, maybe 97%. I don't know, it's high, it's in the 90th percentile. And so with the vast majority of the convictions resulting from guilty pleas, only a very small percentage of federal cases go to trial, and usually the prosecutors win. And so these high rates reflect the rigorous standards that federal prosecutors follow when choosing cases and the resources they can devote into their investigation. So, also, I want to discuss a little bit about Diddy's civil case with Cassie and how civil liability can also be used in criminal cases, or can be guilty. So, in November 2023, P. Diddy was accused of rape, sexual abuse, domestic violence over the course of his relationship from 2007 to 2018. The lawsuit was filed in Manhattan federal court, with Cassie alleging that Diddy subjected her to years of coercive control, manipulation, and physical and psychological abuse. So let's talk about some of the allegations. So Cassie accused Diddy of forcing her into non-consensual sexual acts, those freak-offs, including violent encounters. She also claimed that he would drug her without her knowledge and engage in sexual activities that she did not consent to. Y'all, they found that Tussie in his hotel room when he got arrested yesterday. So yeah. And so in one specific allegation, Cassie accused Diddy of raping her in 2018, which she states was the culmination of years of physical abuse and violence in their relationship. The lawsuit also details instances of physical abuse where Diddy allegedly assaulted her on numerous occasions. She claimed that he would physically harm her when he was angry, leaving her in fear for her safety. And so Cassie asserted that Diddy's violent outbursts often involved threats of retaliation or punishment if she attempted to leave the relationship. And we all seen that video of the hotel with Diddy and Cassie, so we know she ain't lying. And he settled in less than 24 hours, so yeah. So she also said that there was like coercive control, and psychological abuse. And so beyond the physical harm, she did allege that Diddy engaged in intense psychological manipulation, controlling aspects of her personal and professional life. She claimed he used threats and intimidation to maintain power over her. And according to the lawsuit, Diddy exerted control over her career and personal decisions, isolating Cassie from friends, family, and making her feel trapped in the relationship. Wow. So Cassie further claimed that Diddy introduced her to a lifestyle filled with drugs and alcohol, pressuring her to engage in risky behavior that further compromised her well-being. She asserts that he will provide her with drugs like ecstasy, which he allegedly used to make her more compliant. And so he also was violent towards other people. And so the lawsuit that Cassie filed described incidents where Diddy hired male prostitutes to engage in sexual activities with Cassie while he watched. I just want to say this. I don't know if y'all remember the guy who, like, there was like a video footage that leaked where he said that Diddy hired him to have sex or something like that. If I can find it, I'll insert it. But
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot.
Oh, hidden in plain sight.
It's hidden.
I think I see what you're saying.
Okay, how do I know this?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. How do you know this?
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's part of what's called the Boule. The Boule is a branch of the Illuminati.
Okay.
It's the black people. Okay. I'm from Africa, so I'm not a racist.
Okay.
Okay, you're my brother, so I like black people.
Okay.
My mom, I was raised by an African woman in my house. Okay. She was just a servant, but she was she took care of me.
Right.
So I love black people.
Okay.
I had settlement with Sean. Okay. Against Donald Trump. Okay, because he used to belong to their side. You understand? He used to belong to that eliminated group that I told you about, which is an elite group, okay, of individuals which run the whole country. Alright?
Alright.
Basically, what I did you tell him did you explain to him about the message? Or
Please. Elaborate.
On Thursday, turning to Friday, basically, I went to Donald Trump. I went through...
Yeah. There are also claims that Diddy orchestrated violent attacks against other men who he believed were romantically involved with Cassie, including one alleged incident where he hired someone to assault a music producer who was friendly with the lady. So Cassie's lawsuit portrays a relationship marked by severe emotional and physical abuse, with accusations that go beyond the typical allegations that are seen in domestic violence cases. She frames the relationship as one where she felt trapped by Diddy's immense power and influence in the music industry. She was also afraid to speak out or escape due to the fear of the retaliation. So we already know what Diddy's response was. He basically denied all the allegations. His legal team described the claims as being false, stating that Cassie's lawsuit was an attempt to extort him. However, shortly after that lawsuit, baby, I would say it was like less than 24 hours, Cassie and Diddy reached a settlement. Although the terms were not publicly disclosed, Cassie issued a statement thanking her supporters and indicating that she was ready to move forward with her life, while Diddy team maintained his stance of innocence. So, what is the legal significance of this case? Because I wanted to talk about this because it's very important pertaining to the indictment, because it has been unsealed. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody has read it at this point. Everybody but me, because I've been at work all day, because I work a 9 to 5. And I can't hop on and hop off. Okay, let me focus. The legal significance, right? That's what I want to talk about. So this lawsuit came at a time when high-profile cases involving abuse and misconduct in the entertainment industry were receiving increased attention. The allegations against Diddy, a major figure in the music world, was particularly significant due to his vast influence and power. And so the case also highlighted a broader issue of power dynamics, coercion, and abuse in celebrity relationships, adding to the ongoing conversation about accountability in the entertainment industry. Though the lawsuit was settled rather quickly, the allegations have undoubtedly impacted public perception of Diddy and sparked an important discussion about abuse of power and the courage required for survivors to speak out, such as Don Richard. And so now the physical abuse and the sexual abuse are criminal in nature, and you obviously can be held responsible both civilly and criminally. And so let's dive into that. So with civil cases, we understand the purpose of them is to seek compensation for a victim that has been harmed. So the focus with civil cases, right, is providing monetary damages or other remedies to the plaintiff, which is the person that had been harmed. And so in civil cases, the burden of proof is preponderance of evidence, meaning the plaintiff must prove that it's more likely than not that the defendant caused the harm. And so if the defendant is found liable, they are not punished by imprisonment, but instead they may be ordered to pay damages to the victim for pain, suffering, or whatever they had incurred, right? Whatever the damages that are needed based on what they incurred by that person who is held liable. So with criminal cases, it's a little bit different. So instead of having like a legal team or whatever the case may be, the plaintiff, so in criminal cases, it is cases that are brought by the government and not the victim per se. And so the purpose is to punish the wrongdoing for violating the law and to protect public safety, right? And so the focus is on determining the defendant's guilt and imposing criminal penalties like imprisonment, fines, and prison. And so the burden of proof for criminal cases is a little bit higher. Dare I say it's much higher, y'all. So I'm pretty sure we all know this. If you watch a lot of criminal law type stuff, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, right? The prosecutor must prove the defendant committed the crime with a higher level of certainty. And so if found guilty in criminal court, of course, they face penalties such as jail time, probation, or fines, right? And so in civil cases, it's easier to prove liability than guilt in a criminal case because of the different burdens of proof, right? And so with preponderance of evidence, it's a 51% chance that the person did it is what the jury has to think, right? But with criminal cases, it has to be zero doubt that this person did this crime, or it has to be zero, yeah. So a person can face both civil and criminal cases for the same act, right? And so for instance, we're going to say abuse. And so for instance, they might be sued for damages in civil court for some form of abuse while also being prosecuted by the government in criminal court for battery, right, or abuse. And so these proceedings can happen separately and the outcomes may differ based on the evidence and the burden of proof that's required. And so I just want to give a famous example is the O.J. Simpson case, right? So O.J. Simpson was found not guilty of the murder, right, in criminal court due to the higher burden, but he was held liable in civil court for the wrongful death trial leading to a financial judgment against him. And so I just say that because some of the key differences is in the O.J. Simpson civil trial, he provided testimony, whereas within the criminal court under the Fifth Amendment, you have the right to remain silent, and that's what he did. He chose to invoke his Fifth Amendment right, and he did not testify during the trial. And so that's just a little bit of the difference. And so at this point, if you have stuck along because you like to hear me talk and give a lot of background information before I get into the actual case, because I want to make sure you guys understand, or I'm just very, long-winded, I don't know. But I am about to go through this grand jury indictment. So yeah. I am not fancy. I saw some people were able to pull it up on their screen, baby. I'm just gonna use my iPad. And I'm just going to go from it through here. If I'm able to post some screenshots or whatever, or put it on the screen at some point, I'll do that. But I don't know if I can, because I tried to do that with the other stuff when Don, and so this is me just talking, right? I tried to do it whenever I was doing the Don case, talking about Don's lawsuit against Diddy. And the daggone petition came out like later on that day or the next day after I filmed and posted the video or filmed the video. Yeah, and it was just like, girl, how do I get this on here? But whatever. Anyways, we're about to get into it. So it's important for me to note that Diddy he's been charged with 3 criminal charges, right? So he was charged with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and also transportation to engage in prostitution. So those are the 3 charges, and so we're gonna read together, right? You're gonna listen while I read out loud. I'm not gonna read through this whole thing, but we're gonna go through this. So it says count 1, racketeering conspiracy. And so it states that for decades, and it has like all these different names listed for Cuff Daddy, right? Puff Daddy, Cuff Daddy, P. Diddy. I'm just kidding, it doesn't say Cuff Daddy. But it states that he had abused, threatened, coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct, right? To do so, Combs, or I'm just going to say Diddy relied on the employees, resources, and influence of multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. And so they state that Diddy, the defendant in this case, operated his businesses at various places in Manhattan, which is how Manhattan has a jurisdiction, because it is mentioned in most of his organized crime seemingly happened in Manhattan. At all times that are relevant of this indictment, he engaged in pervasive patterns of abuse towards women and other people that we know. He also did other acts at his direction, made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Diddy's location. I guess that's when he had their freak offs, y'all. And so he ensured participation from women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their career, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. Cases from at least in or about 2009, and for continuing years, Diddy assaulted women, among other things, by striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at them, kicking them. And these assaults were at the time witnessed by others, included one instance in LA in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Diddy kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at the woman as she was attempting to leave. And we all seen that video. That is the video where Cassie and Diddy were at a hotel, and we saw Diddy attacking Cassie. And so it states that a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Diddy attempted to bribe this staff member to ensure silence. So he's just trying to pay people off, right, to cover up his dirt. And so Diddy's violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to employees, witnesses, and to his abuse in others. So, and that's what Dawn said in her lawsuit. She was a witness to Diddy attacking Cassie, right? And so it goes on to state that Diddy, he had certain employees to carry out and facilitate his abuse and commercial sex, including his security, household staff, personal assistants, high-ranking supervisors, and those that were close to him. Y'all. So it talks about the Comb enterprise, and it says from at least in or about 2008, on a date of filing this indictment, Diddy and others, known and unknown, were associated with his organized crime. of the Combs enterprise, which is a part of racketeering because it is a predicate of crimes, basically, of the enterprise, right? Similar to like the Young Thug trial, like they have the racketeering, but this is racketeering conspiracy. It's a little bit different, which we'll get into. And so, yeah, from freak offs, Diddy distribute a variety of controlled substances to his victims. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Diddy would film them engaging in sexual acts with the commercial sex workers. And after these freak offs, Diddy and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Girl, he had them having sex for that long that they needed IV fluids. My God. Y'all know Diddy ain't nothing but a demon. Y'all. Okay, so it's just, so I'm like, okay. And so Diddy maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance. Oopsies. Did I just click off of something? Here we are. So instead, members and associates of the Combs enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse by, among other things, by assisting Diddy in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving the locations such as hotels or Diddy's residence. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several days at a time, to recover from the injuries Diddy inflicted without publicly observed. So, this is going to discuss how he was able to commit the crimes that were mentioned in the racketeering conspiracy. And so he done this through intimidation, threatening, and luring female victims into Diddy's orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Diddy would use force, threats of force, and coercion to cause the victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers, and he referred to these as freak-offs. And it says freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Diddy arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. So this reminds me of when they say when you go to these Hollywood parties and they try to like catch you doing bad acts and they record it so that they can use it to blackmail and use against you and use for favors. That's what this is making me think about. Yeah. So in arranging these freak-offs, Diddy, with the assistance of members and associates of the Diddy enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. And so during the freak-offs, Diddy distributed a variety of controlled substances to the victims, in part to keep them obedient and compliant. And so sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Diddy kept videos he filmed of the victims engaging in sex acts with commercial workers. And after the freak-offs, Diddy and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion of the drug use. So it states that members of this enterprise, this organized crime, included high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other of Diddy's employees. They facilitated freak-offs by booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with required freak-off supplies, such as baby oil, controlled substances, lubricant, extra linens, lighting, cleaning the hotel room after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for the victims, commercial sex workers, and Diddy to and from freak-offs, resupplying Diddy with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to pay off the commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluid. Y'all, this is a lot. We're still on count one. So, it says, in or about March of 2024, During the search of Diddy's residence in Miami, Florida, and in Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Y'all, that's wild. What are you doing? I don't even want to imagine what you're doing with that, you know? I don't even want to imagine, because this is really unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate. Diddy's facing life in prison. With these charges, he's looking at some decades. I don't even know if he has priors, but does his prior record, if any, right? When I say priors, like any prior felony convictions or a prior criminal record, does that even matter at this point? Because the nature of the charges are so severe. It's so like been ongoing since from this lawsuit from like what 2008, and I don't know, and I know there's been questions as to like Diddy's been doing stuff since the 90s. Why hasn't that come out? Statute of limitations is likely the reason why. Statute of limitations. So it talks about how Diddy maintained control through means of physical violence, promising career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support. He had members of his organized crime, the Comb Enterprise, to carry firearms, and sometimes Diddy would carry firearms and he would use it to intimidate and threaten people with his firearm, allegedly, in this indictment. It says that law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with the face serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. So it says, and I'm just like trying to make sure because I don't want to be repetitive. So it says on phone calls, Diddy and other members and associates of the organized crime, the enterprise, would provide victims and witnesses with false narratives of events in efforts to conceal the crimes that had been committed. And so it says Diddy caused these calls to be recorded on at least 2 occasions. So it goes on to talk about the racketeering conspiracy. It says from at least in or about 2008. It basically explains like what provides the definition for a racketeering conspiracy under Title 18 USC Section 1962C, subsection C. To wrap that up in a nutshell, the racketeering conspiracy charge against Diddy centers on allegations that he ran a criminal enterprise over several years, and the indictment claims that this organization, referred to as Combs Enterprise, engaged in various illegal activities under Diddy's leadership. So we're going to get into count 2, right, which is the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. And so the grand jury further charges that from at least in or about 2009 up to 2018, Diddy, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, and advertised, maintained, patronized, and solicited by any means a person knowing in reckless disregard of the fact that the means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion in combination of such means will be used to cause the person to engage in commercial sex acts and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same. Diddy recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained victim 1. It doesn't say who victim 1 is, but I think we know who victim 1 is. If I had to guess, I would say it's Cassie. Because I believe we know, right? If memory serves me correct, I believe there was some information that came out a while ago that Cassie was going to be cooperative with the federal investigation. So I'm just only assuming that victim 1 could be Cassie. So it states that victim 1 and attempted to aid and abet and willfully caused victim 1 to engage in commercial sex acts, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that victim 1 was engaging in commercial sex act as a result of force, fraud, and coercion. And so that was fairly short. So count 3 is transportation to engage in prostitution. And so it says the grand jury further charges that from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2024, Diddy, aka Cuff Daddy's not in the indictment, guys, I'm being silly. But Cuff Daddy knowingly transported an individual in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individual engaged in prostitution and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same to it. And so Diddy transported, aided, abetted, and willfully caused the transportation of the female victims and commercial sex workers in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engaged in prostitution. And so, of course, he's innocent unless proven otherwise. And so I just looking at, right, because we don't know all of the potential evidence discovery that Diddy legal team has, because of course he's maintaining his innocence. I believe at the time of me filming this video, he's already been arraigned. And of course, at an arraignment, you're going to enter a plea of not guilty and allow your legal team or your lawyers however many days to file the necessary motions. And so Diddy also has, since he requested a bail, and so in the amount of, God, I can't remember. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up. I think it was $50 million or $50 million bail is what was requested, and he only pays between like 10 or 12% of that. And so the bail was ultimately denied because there is belief that Diddy could possibly be a flight risk. Now, what I think that was pretty smart on Diddy's legal team, they probably said, hey dude, right, you need to fly in from wherever you stay, Los Angeles, Miami, come to New York. It's getting real. Like, you know, we got wind that there's going to be an indictment that's going to happen. So like, come to New York, face the music, face the charges, just to show that you're not running away from this, right? Because it'll be easy for us to defend and argue and advocate on your behalf that you're not a flight risk, right? Because you have all this access and resource and money. And so I think one of the things that Diddy did or is attempting to do is to sell his airplane, right? To show that he's not trying to run away. And so I think that was kind of smart on his legal team to tell him, hey, come to New York, and so just hang out here and just face these charges like a man, because his lawyer said he's not scared. Like, his lawyer said he's not scared. His lawyer saying he's innocent. I'm very curious to know what potential evidence or discovery Diddy's defense team has that can prove his innocence. And understand, so you guys, that the defense doesn't have to put forth a case in chief, right? The burden of proof is on the prosecution. It is on the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this person is guilty and they did the crimes that they are being charged, and the defense team doesn't have to do so. But that's poor advocating, right? And so I'm quite interested in knowing, what does Diddy defense team have that can prove his innocence, or can maintain it, not necessarily prove, but maintain his innocence, right? And so there's just a lot that is just happening. I believe that there's going to be another bail hearing on tomorrow around 3:30. I did see that. So there's going to be another bail hearing on tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's just so much happening in this case. Is Diddy going to get convicted? As I stated earlier, the feds have a very high conviction rate. So there is a high possibility he is going to get convicted, and it's a very high possibility he is going to do prison time, because the feds do a very thorough investigation, and they're not arresting you if they don't, have anything. And the fact that they presented their case in chief basically in front of a community, like a grand jury, and it felt like that was enough for a probable cause. I am certain that it's likely he's going to get convicted, but I'm interested in watching this whole thing play out, because there has been a lot that has happened to Diddy within the last 24 hours, and I'm tired for you, Diddy. But this is just, karma comes back to bite, and not everybody's lying on you. Just like my mom used to say back when I used to get in trouble, not everybody's lying on you. And Diddy, I have to say, not everybody's lying on you. I feel like there is some truth to what is being said, but we just have to wait to see how all of this is going to play out in court. We wait to see what motions are going to be filed, because I'm pretty sure his team is going to file like a bunch of motions on his behalf. But right now, he has to sit in jail until his trial, which can take years, you know, unless his lawyers file a motion for a speedy trial or something, but it can take years. And like, look at the YSL case. Apparently it took a year for them to pick out a jury, and Diddy is more known than Young Thug. So he's going to be sitting for a while if bail is denied again on tomorrow. So I don't have anything else to say or add really to this video. Bad Brittany, bad me. I didn't get a chance to look up to see like how much time each charge carries, but I did hear some talk and discussion that the sex trafficking carries a minimum, I want to say 15 years. And so if convicted of that, Diddy is looking at a minimum of 15 years, if that is to be true. If not, I'll put a disclaimer and say it's not. But I'll also put something in here, because I didn't look it up, to let you know how much jail time is he really looking at, because I'm pretty sure it's out there somewhere. I've just been at my 9 to 5 all day, girl, and I just didn't do my due diligence on that part. but I really wanted to come and make this video and talk about it, because it's just a lot going on. And so, yeah.